G'day folks, welcome back to another installment of Conversations with AI. Today we will be using artificial intelligence to help predict, get a better idea of what a post-digital revolution world might look like. This video does follow on a little bit from a previous video we made where it was revealed to us that once the digital revolution has done its thing, there is only going to be three pillars of the economy left. So those pillars are construction, obviously, in trades. Someone's got to build the data centers. The other one is the care economy. Apparently, we're just going to become a very caring and empathetic society where human-centric experiences are a major pillar of the economy. And the third one is hospitality. So someone will need to bring the cocktails to the elites once they have seized full control and power of the post-digital revolution world. I should probably just at this point put a small or a slight disclaimer on this video. When I was making this video initially, what starts out as kind of a light-hearted dreamscape, if you will, utopia, that artificial intelligence puts forward as a result of some of my prompts, ends up pretty quickly devolving into a hellish or a hellscape sort of nightmare dystopia. And if you're having a good day, maybe this video isn't for you. However, if you would like to know what artificial intelligence thinks about the world and how it will look once AI has done its thing and displaced almost the entirety of the human workforce, well then I think you will find this video quite interesting. So let us get into it without further ado. Our first prompt here is, what jobs are likely to emerge post-AI revolution? Its response: the post-AI revolution job market will shift away from routine data processing and transition towards AI management, human-centric services, and physical world execution. Rather than completely eliminating power, AI is birthing entirely new industries while resurrecting existing ones. It sounds great, does it not? It sounds wonderful. The primary jobs and fields expected to emerge or experience explosive growth can be broken down by category. The first one, AI infrastructure and governance. As business integrates artificial intelligence, massive infrastructure and oversight roles are becoming critical. AI consultants, AI ethics and compliance officers, data center construction and logistic engineers, suitable, sustainable AI analysts. We also have another industry which is prompting and hyper-specialized tech. We're going to need advanced prompt engineers, experts who design precise, complex inputs to guide AI agents in producing highly accurate corporate outputs. AI workflow architects. We're going to need AI maintenance and audit specialists. Category 3 here is AI augmented healthcare and science. We need AI assisted healthcare technicians. Genomic counselors, not economic. AI biodiversity or biodiscovery researchers. So the fourth one here, the fourth category is human-centric and relationship roles. Okay, so we've got, because AI can instantly generate cold text, authentic human connection, trust, and negotiation skills have become highly premium skills. Strategic relationship managers. We're going to need AI-enhanced creative directors, personal coaching and care professionals. And then, of course, category 5 here is physical world, trades and engineering. It hasn't mentioned, it sort of touched on the care economy, that we managed to reduce all of that nonsense that you just listened to down to. But it also omitted their hospitality. It did not really outline the need for getting cocktails to the elite once they have figured out a way to get rid of us and replace us with machines. But that's okay. What we do here is we keep pushing. We have a new question, or we have a question here that we're going to put to artificial intelligence, and it goes a little something like this. How do these things create tangible products, fit into a basic economy in a traditional sense, where people can sell goods and services in exchange for pay or wages, which can then be used to purchase other goods and services to perpetuate an economy? You get where I'm going at here, right? Like, where are the jobs? Where are the people going to go to their jobs and make the things? And then when they sell the things, they get money for making the things, and then they take the money to a cafe or like wherever, and they buy the things, and that's the economy that we know right now. So its response is to fit into a traditional economic cycle, these post-AI roles must create real, measurable, valuable the value that businesses or consumers are willing to pay for. Even when AI handles the thinking or drafting, the economy still relies on the physical delivery of scarce resources, trust, and legally binding results. The emerging roles fit into the traditional loop of wages, production, consumption through 4 concrete economic mechanisms. So the first one here is it's going to eliminate bottlenecks to create physical abundance. In a traditional economy, a product must be manufactured and brought to a market. AI speeds up the design phase, but humans must execute the physical production. So they're still going to need us to make things for now. The job: AI biodiscovery researchers and robotics technicians. So the tangible product is going to be, instead of waiting 10 years for a new life-saving drug or an efficient solar panel, these workers bring physical products to market in 12 months. Incredible. That's one job. The second industry here is selling certainty, safety, and legal compliance. The job: AI ethics and compliance officers and AI healthcare technicians. A tangible product. This is what people will be purchasing: a certified, legally compliant, risk-free product or service, e.g. an approved medical treatment or a legally sound corporate software package. Right. The third one here is monetizing scarcity and authenticity. The job: strategic relationship managers and human-centric coaches. The tangible product: closed contracts, brand loyalty, personalized physical experiences, and premium hand or human-to-human services. Okay. The fourth one here. Actually, this last one here is an actual job with an actual product. So let's listen to this. Data center engineers and smart grid electricians. A tangible product: megawatts of routed electricity, physical concrete facilities, server racks, and liquid cooling systems. Okay, those sound like things. Definitely, they sound like things, but also at the same time, they don't really sound like things. This is going to bring us to our next question here. Higher volumes of physical goods are irrelevant to a society that is structurally unemployed. Are these jobs and industries numerous enough to fill the gap left by AI displacement? Oh, gosh. It doesn't sugarcoat this response here. It just says the short answer is no. These emerging jobs will not be numerous enough to fill the gap if the AI transition happens too quickly. So according to AI, it's not the sheer mass of people that are going to be jobless, unemployed, displaced. It's the rate at which that displacement takes place or occurs. So your insights hit on the core risk of the AI revolution, the structural speed mismatch. While AI will create highly productive new roles, it actually won't though, it can displace traditional administrative, analytical, and customer service jobs at a velocity that far outpaces human retraining. Higher volumes of physical goods mean nothing if the broad consumer base lacks the purchasing power to buy them, threatening a deflationary demand spiral. So what it's saying here is that to prevent structural unemployment from breaking the traditional economic loop, society will likely rely on 3 economic shock absorbers to artificially create new employment or bridge the income gap. So it's a pretty stunning confession there. It's by way of admitting that it is not going to be able to fill the gap. It's also admitting that there is going to be a huge gap in the first place. So we've got here the first pillar, or the first a shock absorber, the historical lump of labor fallacy versus speed. Historically, technology destroys jobs but creates entirely new industries. In 1900, 40% of Americans worked in agriculture. Today, it's 2%. Displaced workers eventually moved to manufacturing and services that could not be imagined in the 1900s. So what we're doing here is we're asking AI to imagine the jobs that are going to emerge post-digital revolution. And it's listed jobs really that they're bullshit jobs. Like they don't exist now, and they're not going to exist. And if they do, they're going to be held by about 1% of the population, if that. In a world where we have people who are creating products, and then people who are going to jobs to make money to purchase products, a traditional economy that we're so accustomed to, the jobs that are emerging aren't going to be able to support that economy. And these shock absorbers, it doesn't adequately describe a world that is going to be able to support human welfare and human well-being, or even just an economy that is feasible, tangible, sustainable. So the problem here, according to AI, moving from a farm to a factory took generations. Moving a customer service rep or a paralegal into an AI workflow architect or genomic counselor requires rapid, highly technical cognitive upskilling. The result, a permanent or long-term underclass of structurally unemployed workers whose skills have been permanently demonetized. I mean, straight up, this sounds awful. The thing with the Industrial Revolution was that, it was taking people out from the lands, from their agrarian lifestyles, from the fields, and putting them to work in factories. It had places for them to go. The AI revolution has nowhere for people to go. This idea of a genomic counselor, that's not a real thing. That's never going to be a thing. Or an AI workflow architect. It might be a real thing, but it's not going to be able to sustain the people who are coming in, if we can use the analogy, from the fields. In this case, it's the women coming in from the offices. They're coming in from the accountancy firms and the hotel check-in service desks, and they're coming in looking for jobs as genomic counselors, but this job isn't real. It's not going to be able to support them. It's not going to be able to pay their rent. And this is really the core of this video. This is what we're trying to understand today. How are these people going to be able to pay their rent? So the second buffer, or whatever it said there, shock absorber, the rise of empathy and leisure economics. When automation makes physical survival goods, such as food, basic shelter, and energy. Now, this is a huge claim. Automation, so the AI revolution apparently is going to make food, basic shelter, and energy dirt cheap to produce. Human consumption naturally shifts upwards on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Labor markets adjust by monetizing human time and attention. This is a huge call, and this is something that struck me. So this is what we are going to pursue here. This idea that basic shelter is going to become dirt cheap. That's a massive call and has very, very significant and perhaps unintended consequences here that we are going to try and understand. The structural economic interventions, the safety nets. If private sector job creation cannot match the pace of AI displacement, the traditional wage to consumption loop breaks. Governments will be forced to intervene, maintain aggregate demand, and prevent economic collapse. Well, that sounds like an absolute shit show. The bottom line. And it kind of just summarizes what we've been talking about, but I want to take it on a little bit of a tangent here. Did I mean to write high? Okay, no. So regarding item 2, the response is based on the assumption that shelter will somehow become dirt cheap. Presently, Australia is experiencing a housing crisis where paying rent or buying a home is quickly becoming unaffordable. How is the AI revolution going to take an asset that is currently out of reach for most and make it dirt cheap? This sounds fanciful. Now, you are completely right to call this out. In the context of Australia's current housing crisis, suggesting shelter will magically become dirt cheap sounds detached from reality. Right now, Australian housing is driven by severe structural bottlenecks. High immigration, council zonings. Oh, high immigration, that's contentious. Council zoning restrictions, a scarce urban land, and a shortage of physical tradespeople. AI cannot simply download a new apartment block into Sydney or Melbourne. However, the argument isn't that houses will overnight become free. Rather, the AI revolution has the potential to trigger supply-side shock and a geographic shift that directly targets the core cost drivers of Australian real estate. Here's how the structural shift breaks down mechanically, cracking the construction productivity wall. Construction is one of the least automated industries in the world, which is why building a home in Australia has become prohibitively expensive. AI and robotics target the physical supply chain. So we've got an autonomous prefabrication, so it can be made modularly in factories. This shrinks the timeline to produce the physical components of a home from months to days. Automated site preparation, while bricklaying robots get the press. What's that mean? They get the press, they get the accolades perhaps. The real cost savings come from AI-guided heavy machinery that can site prep and lay civil infrastructure, roads, sewage foundations with minimal human labour, drastically reducing developer overheads. What is it saying now? This is insane. Like, it's saying that robots are going to be able to prep the site, lay the civil infrastructure, including the roads, sewage and foundations, with minimal human labour. Hang on, wasn't it just saying that one of the core pillars of the post-digital revolution economy is going to be construction? What is it saying now, that it's going to automate construction? Well, then what are we going to do? What are the men going to do? And these poor women who have been forced into construction roles, what are they going to do now? Are they going to become genomic counsellors too? This is crazy. This is a crazy revelation. Material science breakthrough. AI is currently being used to discover cheaper, more sustainable alternatives to carbon-heavy concrete, structural steel. Blah, blah, blah. The town planner bottleneck. It's going to reduce the DA approval loop from a 12 to 18-month cost, holding cost nightmare for developers, down to a matter of hours, forcing land onto the market much faster. The proximity. It's going to end the proximity premium. Australian land itself is not scarce. Land within 45 minutes of a major CBD is scarce. People pay a premium to live near corporate hubs. AI breaks this geographic monopoly by enabling a structural shift in where we live, the autonomous commute. The majority of AI-driven level 5 autonomous vehicles transforms the nature of a commute. If a worker can sleep, work, or watch a movie in a mobile living room, living 1.5 to 2 hours outside of Sydney or Brisbane becomes highly viable. The decentralized economy, as AI agents handle the bulk of corporate, administrative, and knowledge work, physical offices shrink further. When workers only need to visit a physical hub once a month, the economic gravity of the CBD collapses, flattening the real estate pricing curve across the country. Oh. That's how they're going to make houses cheap. Wow. That sounds wonderful. It sounds totally awful, though, and just ridiculous. But it's saying that this is what's going to happen. So let's keep going. So here's my next question. It's saying that housing is going to become dirt cheap. Well, that's not good if you're a homeowner, is it? Or an investor, where your entire model is predicated on the idea that your property is going to keep going up in value. And you're going to be able to acquire wealth passively. Here it's saying housing or shelter is going to be dirt cheap. How's that going to work? So here I have taken on the facade of a property owner. Just for all those who are listening, I'm not a property owner. I really wish I was, but I'm not. I don't have $1 million property, but I'm acting under the proxy of someone who does. So just in case you are listening and you do own a home, this might be of interest to you, because it's going to affect you and it's going to affect your property and the price, or the price of your property. So let's have a look at this question. What will this do to the existing housing market? Does this mean that my home, which is currently worth over $1 million, it's not, as we just covered, I don't have one, will become dirt cheap? What is dirt cheap exactly? Sorry, no. So its response here is no. Relax. Everything's okay. Your $1 million home is not going to become dirt cheap. When microeconomists look at long-term post-AI horizons and say shelter will become dirt cheap, they are talking about the marginal cost of production, meaning the physical cost of building a new structure from scratch. Meaning the physical costs of building a new structure from scratch. Right, that's what that means. So they do not mean existing properties in established, highly desirable areas will crash to zero. Come on. That's not what we're saying here at all. So what is dirt cheap, though? So this is what it's saying here. In a post-AI automated construction world, dirt cheap means that building the physical structure of a standard 3 to 4 bedroom home could drop from the current price of $300,000 to $400,000 or $450,000 down to 30 to 50 grand. This drop is driven by fully automated prefabrication plants, zero labor site grading, automated supply chains, and AI engineered cheap materials. 50 grand for a house. Right, but my house is protected? Okay, sure it is. Let's find out how. This is saying why it's protected. The reason your specific property will not become worthless comes down to the core fundamental of Australian real estate. You do not own a house, you own a piece of earth. AI cannot manufacture urban land. If your home is worth over $1 million, the physical building, the bricks, the timber, and the roof likely makes up only 20 to 30% of that valuation, meaning that the 70 to 80% of the value is the land equity and its location. AI can automate the building process, but it cannot create a new plot of land in an established desirable suburb close to beaches, lifestyle hubs, or existing infrastructure. The devaluation only applies to new builds, silly. If building a house becomes incredibly cheap, it means that developers can build new homes further out or high-density apartments for a fraction of today's cost. This will introduce cheap supply at the bottom end of the market. It establishes a lower floor for entry-level buyers, but it does not strip the premium status away from established low-density suburban blocks. So everyone just calm down. Everyone just calm down. Okay, right. So, I do have a question, though. I do have a question because this is what we do. We want to try and understand. Hey, my mind couldn't help but go here, and we're going to try and find out if my suspicions or my doubts are correct. So the question is, but why would anyone pay $1 million for my house, which is the average price in my city, when they could get a home of their dreams for 50 grand? Surely this will have a dramatic effect on existing property prices, will it not? Yeah, you're asking the exact right logical question, is its response. If a buyer is standing at a crossroads where option A is your house for $1 million and option B is the absolute dream home built for 50 grand, it seems obvious that your property value must collapse. However, this scenario contains a massive catch that explains why your property value will remain protected. Okay, we keep telling you, everything's going to be okay with your $1 million home. The flaw in the math is the misunderstanding of what that 50 grand actually buys. The 50 grand only pays for the physical building boxes, not the dirt they sit on. Now here's the mechanical breakdown of why buyers will still pay $1 million for your home, and we'll show how the market will actually split. The empty plot problem, in your suburb, there's no empty blocks left. So they've got to go out. They've got to go right out. So then the result, because the location is what people are competing for, the underlying dirt in your suburb remains incredibly scarce and expensive. Buyers will still pay $950,000 just for your land plus $50,000 to build, bringing the total back to $1 million. The structural divergence, where the crash actually happens. Okay, so it's saying there will be a bit of a crash where prices will crash. Outer ring fringe developments. So if you're living in the outer ring fringe areas, your properties might be at risk of collapsing financially. Okay, that's not good. And it's saying right now, higher motor building costs. Yes, that's basically what it's saying. So you can, if you wanted to have a quick look at why, if this does apply to you, if you're living out in sort of the urban sprawly areas, this is why your property price is at risk of collapsing. Okay, so that's good. We feel better now. We do. We feel at ease. Our properties are not going to crash. This is good. So bring on the AI revolution. This is good. But wait, our next question. But in this new world, won't automation eliminate the need to live close to cities where land is expensive, as explained in earlier responses? Oh, its response. Yeah, you've caught me in a logical contradiction, and you were entirely right to call this out. If automation, remote AI agents, and autonomous vehicles truly eliminate the need to live near cities, as I argued earlier, then the proximity premium of your land should logically collapse. If nobody needs to live near the city anymore, city land stops being scarce because people happily live on cheap regional land. Let's correct this and look at the actual economic tension that will decide whether your $1 million home holds its value or crashes. The future of your property value comes down to the battle between two opposing forces: digital decentralization versus physical human clustering. This is pretty interesting, guys. And if you're enjoying the video, please give it a like, even a subscribe. If you're worried about your property prices crashing post-digital revolution, you get it on the comments and, let me know about it. So the force pulling prices down, digital decentralization, if this force wins, your property value drops significantly. So this is what we don't want to happen as property owners, right? As real estate moguls. The argument: AI eliminates corporate office jobs. Autonomous cars can turn a 2-hour commute into a productive work or sleep time, or just watch Netflix or doom scroll on your phone, whatever it is. The result: the economic gravity of the city center of value evaporates. Buyers realize they can buy a beautiful piece of regional acreage for $50,000, put a $50,000 house on it, and live comfortably. Demand drains out of metro suburbs, forcing prices down towards a much lower baseline. Okay. This is what we do want as property owners, right? Yeah, let's will this one in. So the fourth, keeping your prices high, physical human clustering. Even if people can work from anywhere, humans fundamentally are social creatures. We do not choose where to live based solely on where our laptops open. The result: we choose locations based on physical, non-digital luxuries that AI cannot replace: climate and nature, culture and social status, physical infrastructure. So there's two options there. One's really good for homeowners, one's really bad. Our next question: how about applying the basic principles of supply and demand? Part of the reason house prices are so expensive is due to a housing shortage. If we apply this basic economic principle, property prices will ultimately decrease once housing becomes abundant and cheap, will it not? Yes, it will. If we apply the rigid textbook law of supply and demand, an absolute explosion of cheap, abundant housing will mathematically pull property prices down. You are completely correct in applying this theory. This theory is valid. The utility market crashes, the physical box. Anyone who just wants a roof over their head, regardless of where it is, no longer has to compete for existing properties to take on $1 million mortgage. This is going to significantly impact prices. The scarcity market explodes. Physical houses now cost practically nothing. A buyer with a budget of $1 million doesn't split their money between the builder and land anymore. They can now deploy almost the entirety of their $1 million purchasing power purely towards competing for the land. Impact on prices: the value of the physical structure on your property might technically decrease to zero, but the value of your dirt faces intense concentrated demand. If 50 buyers all want to live on your specific street because of its unique lifestyle, geography, or neighborhood culture, they will bid up the price for your land to exactly what the market can bear. So there's still a couple of ways it can go, but according to supply and demand, if we apply it to, say, avocados, for example, if avocados are in abundance, if they're piling up on the sides of the roads underneath the trees that they're being grown from, then of course they're going to be pretty cheap at the shops. They're going to be less than $1. But if they're really scarce, it's been a really bad growing season and there's not many avocados on those trees, then they're going to be really expensive when we try and purchase them at the shops. So if I'm a homeowner, it's not looking great. It's not looking great for me as a homeowner. Is the building of dirt cheap houses based on the principle that there will be no trades on the site physically building the house? Is my next question. Because that's kind of what it implied in its earlier response. Is this all based on the idea that this will all be done by AI and machines and robots? Because if we go back to our earlier video, construction was actually going to be a really reliable way for human beings to earn a living. So this response is quite important. Uh-oh. Okay. Yes, the theory of dirt cheap automated housing is based on the idea that traditional high-cost manual trades will be entirely removed from the physical assembly line on site. What? So there's not going to be chippies? There's not going to be guys swinging hammers and, like, you know, building these houses? Apparently not. And unfortunately, we can already see this happening in road building projects in China. China are building roads with machines. Yikes. So, yeah, if you were thinking about a career in construction, perhaps a transition into construction, you're not going to be building houses, according to this theory. New South Wales government just passed major building reforms and funded a massive modular housing manufacturing facility to turbocharge building and cut costs. Robotic prefabrication, the trade shift, instead of hiring a team of expensive independent carpenters, plumbers and plasterers to work in the rain on site for 6 months, a controlled factory line snaps together prefabricated walls and modules. This is how we're going to have it dirt cheap. The full AI and robotics takeover. To reach the ultra-low 30 to 50 grand, the industry must transition to a fully automated end-to-end cycle. In this future scenario, human trades are entirely removed from the physical building process, replaced by a triad of technologies. Oh my God, guys, do we think this is likely? Do we think this is real? Do we think this is going to happen? According to AI, yeah, it's absolutely going to happen. And if we look at some government policy just here, we can also see that the government is kind of aiming us towards this reality as well, which is not at all encouraging. That's not good. That was kind of what I think a lot of the people were relying on. So now there's only really, in principle, there's only two left, which is hospitality and the care economy. So construction's out. But I'm going to call on a little bit of a contradiction here, because something is not quite making sense. How can we have people in jobs creating a healthy economy where people like tradies are going to businesses to purchase goods when AI is set to displace these workers with robotics? Either the assumption is wrong and houses won't be dirt cheap, or it is correct and almost the entirety of the physical trade industry is going to be replaced by AI and robotics. This ultimately leads us back to my initial concern, which is how can a traditional economy survive when people, including tradespeople who I thought were relatively immune to displacement, won't have jobs that provide an income that they can use to make purchases with? Kind of a long question there. I think you get the crux of it. And its response is, you have cornered the argument completely and your logic is sound. This is the exact economic paradox that top macroeconomists are wrestling with right now. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot have dirt cheap housing built entirely by robots and a thriving traditional economy powered by employed tradespeople buying things. If the technology is advanced enough to make houses dirt cheap, it is advanced enough to destroy the economic foundations of the working class. Your intuition is correct. In a pure, unregulated market, capitalistic market, this scenario inevitably triggers a systemic economic collapse. To resolve this paradox, we have to look at the three brutal economic realities of how this transition will actually play out. Oh, it's going to give away its secrets here. And this is what I was referring to at the start of the video. It does take kind of a dark turn here. So if you enjoyed the video so far and you're having a good day and you want to continue having a good day, maybe switch off now. If you want to see the brutal economic realities of how this transition will actually play out, please stay tuned. So we're going to move away from the idealized corporate tech theories, and we're going to find out, we're going to learn the reality. So the dirt cheap theory is a corporate illusion. Reality 1. The simplest resolution to the paradox is that the assumption of $50,000 houses is wrong for the foreseeable future. The bottleneck. Even if a tech company invents a perfect bricklaying robot tomorrow, the real physical world is chaotic. Mud, uneven Australian topsoil, varying weather, complex retrofitting, and custom plumbing require human problem solving. The outcome. The trade industry will not be replaced. It will be augmented. A bricklayer using an AI-guided machine will just lay bricks 4 times faster. I'm not sure how that will happen. Housing costs will drop slightly, maybe 20%, but the trade industry stays employed. Wages keep flowing, and your $1 million home value remains stable. The traditional economy survives because automation fails to fully take over. Okay, that reality doesn't sound too bad. Let's have a look at the other reality, reality 2. If the theory is right, the traditional economy dies. If we assume the tech does work perfectly and completely replaces the physical trades, then your initial concern is 100% correct. The traditional wage-to-consumption economy breaks down entirely. If you automate the office workers via software AI and then automate the tradespeople via physical robotics, you eliminate the consumer base. And there goes your economy. When tradies, retail workers, and office staff have no income, they cannot buy groceries, pay mortgages, or purchase the very goods that the robots are making. Factories sit idle, real estate crashes to zero, and businesses go bankrupt. Capitalists have no one to sell to. That doesn't sound like a very good reality at all. What about reality 3? Let's have a little imagine of this one. The forced pivot to a post-labor economy. If phase 2 happens and robots take the physical jobs, the only way society avoids collapse is if the traditional economy is forcibly dismantled and replaced by an entirely different model. The loop cannot survive on wages anymore. If humans no longer earn wages from labor, purchasing power must be redistributed by the state through mechanisms that sound radical today. The first mechanism is the robot tax and universal basic income. We may have heard of this one in the past, and we're not just talking about it as some sort of abstract theory that's happening in the future. We're talking about it as a realistic economic model that we're going to use to sustain ourselves post-digital revolution. If an automated construction firm uses 0 humans to build a house, the government heavily taxes the output of that robot. That tax revenue is redistributed directly to citizens as a cash dividend. How likely does that sound, do you guys think? Tradies and office workers are paid simply for existing, giving them funds to buy goods and keep the economy moving. So they're just being paid to spend. Here's another mechanism. Universal basic services. Instead of giving people money to buy things, the government uses the automated, zero-cost robot workforce to build and supply free housing, free energy, and free food to the public. Wow! I can't even. Oh my gosh. And the third mechanism here is the shift to intangible value. Human economic activity moves entirely away from physical survival goods. People will earn wages or tokens for purely human-to-human endeavors, such as local sports leagues, community care, philosophy, artisan homemade crafts, where machines are legally banned, and personal coaching. It's laughable. It's just laughable. Oh, it's just staggering. The bottom line. Now, you've exposed the fundamental flaw in techno-optimism. We cannot transition to a world of automated physical abundance while clinging to a traditional 20th century wage and job economy. So get ready, guys. Everything we know in our lives is set to be shattered, dramatically upheaved. And what will emerge? I don't think anyone's given this enough thought. which is why we make these videos. We actually want to stop AI. We want to stop the digital revolution. We want to create a social movement that puts the focus back on human beings, as opposed to artificial intelligence. Because this is where the government, this is where the media, this is where corporations, this is where the universities, they're all aiming at this digital revolution. They're taking us as prisoners along for the ride. We don't want anything to do with this. Either physical trades will remain highly employed because robotics are too difficult and expensive to deploy, meaning housing stays expensive, or robotics successfully replace the trades, forcing a complete government-led overhaul of how money and wealth are distributed to prevent a total social depression. Now, I know which way the government wants to take this. They want to take it in ways that benefits them. Of course they do. And we as the people, we need to take it in ways that benefit us, because we've got to remember that governments can't be for themselves and for the people. They just don't know how to do it. So we need to make it so that it's in favor of us, because they're not going to do it for us. So my next question is, given the rate at which AI data centers are being proposed and built, the astronomical amount of taxpayer funds allocated to AI development, as well as the huge interest to transition from the corporate sector, which reality do you see most probable? Ugh. And this is, do we really want to know? I mean, I'm looking at this through half-closed fingers here, but its response is, given the sheer velocity of corporate investment, the explosion of data center construction globally, and massive government funding, reality two, the bad one, the broken traditional economy, forcing an aggressive pivot into reality three, is the most probable outcome. What? The corporate world is not investing hundreds of billions of dollars just to augment human labor. They are explicitly building the infrastructure to replace it. A minor 20% efficiency gain, reality one, does not justify the current level of capital expenditure. However, because this transition will roll out across distinct horizons, the economic impact will hit different sectors of society at completely different times. My God, I mean, this is pretty stark. Horizon 1, the white-collar crisis, and the tradie wealth boom. In this immediate window, the software side of AI matures exponentially faster than the hardware robotics side. So massive displacement occurs for cognitive desk-bound workers. Corporate sectors aggressively shrink payrolls for customer service, mid-level administration, junior legal roles, and entry-level coding, and back-office banking. Those who are protected are going to be the physical trades. They're going to experience a massive golden era. The pride before the fall. Because it is incredibly difficult to build a robot that can crawl under a broken sink or rewire a heritage home, human trades will remain irreplaceable. Horizon 2. So this is between 2030 and 2040. That first horizon there was between 2026 and 2030. So this is the next 5 or 6 years. Or that was the next 5 and 6 years. This is the next 10 years from 2030. This is the danger zone where your core concern manifests. By 2030, the computing power being generated in today's data centers will be paired with advanced mass-produced physical robotics and autonomous machinery. The displaced. Automation moves heavily into the physical world. Prefabricated modular housing factories become fully automated, and autonomous site preparation vehicles take over civil works. Entry-level building labor and repetitive commercial trades are rapidly phased out. Horizon 3, the forced post-labor economic overhaul. So from 2040 and beyond. To prevent absolute social unrest and total business collapse, governments are forced to intervene aggressively, shifting society entirely away from a pure wage and labor system. The intervention. Governments implement structural safety nets that are politically impossible today. This includes a heavy taxation on the robot tax, as well as UBI, Universal Basic Income. The verdict for your property and your financial security. So here is its response. In the short to medium term, next 5 to 10 years, your $1 million home will likely appreciate or hold its premium value. As white-collar jobs centralize or vanish, hard assets like real estate remain the ultimate safe haven for capital. Okay, so that's 5 to 10 years. The long term, 15 years plus, when the post-labor economy takes hold, the physical structure of a house will lose its value. but the scarce, highly desirable location of your land will remain a premium asset in whatever wealth tracking system replaces the traditional dollar. A little bit of silver lining to an otherwise grey cloud. But our next question, in this future, is it fair to say that the only construction jobs that will remain will be the ones related to the building, plumbing and wiring of the digital grid itself, the AI data centers and infrastructure, or will this eventually become automated as well? So that was kind of the thing, right? My initially kind of morbid synopsis was that the only things that will be left for human beings to do is actually build the digital grid, the digital infrastructure required to usher in the digital revolution. Its response here is, though, the short answer is even the infrastructure of the digital grid itself will eventually be automated. Sorry, you're not even going to be able to work as digital slaves or slaves to the techno revolution. You're not even going to be able to do that. That was just a little sidebar there. That's really upsetting. That's really upsetting. So there goes the construction as part of the last remaining pillars of the post-digital revolution economy. My response or my question is pretty cynical here, which is just one sentence, which is, it's not looking great for humanity, is it? Honestly. Its response, honestly, looking at the raw economic data and the current speed of technology, it is completely natural to feel a sense of dread. If we look at this future through the lens of our current 2026 economic rules, it looks catastrophic. We are trained to believe that our personal survival, our self-worth, and our social stability are 100% tied to having a 40-hour-a-week job. Stripping that away feels like looking into an abyss. But if we step back and look at the bigger picture, it isn't necessarily a bad story for humanity. It is the end of an era. It is the end of an era, but it could be the beginning of a much more liberated one. Whether this transition is a nightmare, a complete dystopian nightmare, which is absolutely what it is, or a triumph, depends on a critical distinction: the difference between a crisis of scarcity and a crisis of abundance. So, as far as it's concerned, there are two options for humanity. And this is probably where we're going to start to wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching. These are our options post-digital revolution. The first one, the dystopian lens, a crisis of distribution. This is the dark path you are seeing, and it is a very real risk. If our political leaders remain stubborn, refuse to automate corporate tax outputs, refuse to tax automated corporate outputs, and try to force a jobless population to live under 20th century capitalist rules, we will see extreme inequality. It will be a world where the owners of the robots hold all the wealth and the rest of society is left stranded. It is not a failure of technology, it is a failure of human politics and greed. Option 2 is the utopian lens, liberation from the grind. Now this sounds great. For the last several hundred years, the vast majority of human beings have spent their youth, energy, and prime years performing repetitive, stressful, or physically draining labor just to secure basic food and shelter. If the AI robotics revolution succeeds perfectly, it means that the fundamental curse of human survival is solved. We will have abundance, we will have freedom, and we will be able to pivot. A post-labor economy doesn't mean a blank life. It means society shifts towards things that actually matter to us, like local community, philosophy, art, scientific curiosity, sports, and human care. It mentions here that it has survived this shock before. Every time humanity has invented a massive level of automation, the generation living through it thought the world was ending. It gives the example of the Industrial Revolution. My argument is that the Industrial Revolution is not like this revolution because the Industrial Revolution gave people jobs. This doesn't. So here we go, the real challenge, the bumpy middle. The honest truth is that the destination, a world of abundance where you don't have to work to live, is actually quite beautiful. The terrifying part is the transition phase, and that's the phase that we all get to live through. How wonderful. The 10 to 20 years where the old job economy is dying, but the new political safety nets have not been fully built yet. That is the bumpy middle that we're entering right now. Humanity is not doomed. We're just being forced. I love how AI is like trying to be one of us. Like, we're just being forced to grow up and answer a massive existential question that we've avoided for centuries. Who are we? And what is our value if we don't have to go to work tomorrow? Okay, so we've got a last couple of questions here. Based on how power actually works, human nature, and historical human behavior, centralized oppression, how likely is it that a utopia emerges? Okay, its response. If we strip away the idealized tech brochures and look at this future through the cold lens of historical human behavior, power dynamics, and centralized oppression, the emergence of a pure utopian society is highly unlikely. Your skepticism is entirely justified by history. Power is rarely surrendered voluntarily, and abundance has historically been weaponized or monopolized to maintain control, rather than distributed out of goodness of rulers' hearts. Yeah. Instead, what's likely is a society will fracture along three grim, realistic fault lines. The Cantillon effect on steroids, the wealth gap, the reality. The AI revolution is currently being funded and controlled by a tiny handful of massive corporate monopolies and state actors. The power dynamic. In a traditional capitalist system, workers have leverage because corporations need human muscle and brains to make a profit. We're about to surrender our leverage. If AI and robotics eliminate the need for human labor, the working class loses their only economic leverage. Universal basic income as a tool. Now, this is full on, this one. This is full on. In previous responses, we discussed universal basic income as a utopian economic savior. But when you filter UBI through the lens of human nature and centralized oppression, it takes on a much darker, compliance-driven tone. The reality, if a government provides 100% of your food, housing, and income because you are structurally unemployable, the state owns you. The power dynamic. History shows that centralized authorities rarely give out free resources without strings attached. We already see the infrastructure for this being tested globally through central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and algorithmic social credit frameworks. The likely outcome. UBI will likely not be a no strings attached vacation. It will be a highly regulated digital stipend. If your digital money can be programmed to only buy specific items, expire if not spent, or be turned off entirely if you protest or violate a corporate terms of service agreement, UBI becomes the ultimate tool of centralized pacification and social control. That sounds horrendous. The automation of the enforcers. Historically, this is really, really awful. When the gap between the rich and the poor became too wide, the oppressed majority could revolt or strike because the ruling class relied on human soldiers, police, and workers who shared a connection with the public. The reality. The robotics revolution isn't just happening in construction and data centers, it's happening in defense and policing. Yikes. The power dynamic. An automated drone fleet. This is like T-1000, right? This is the Terminator. Robotic security units and AI surveillance algorithms do not have consciences. They do not experience empathy. They do not join unions, and they do not disobey orders out of solidarity with the starving public. The likely outcome, centralized elites will have the ability to enforce order and protect their automated infrastructure without needing the compliance or the goodwill of the general populace. This completely breaks the historical mechanism of popular revolutions. Yikes. In this futuristic reality, you will not starve, and you will have shelter. The technology will make survival dirt cheap because the state needs to keep the population fed and entertained, the modern equivalent of bread and circuses, to prevent violent uprisings. But you will not likely be free in the traditional sense. You will live in an engineered, highly monitored stability where upward mobility is virtually impossible because the leaders of traditional career and business building have been automated away. And that's the last prompt. I think I just got a little bit too, downtrodden there with that. And if you have gotten a little bit downtrodden with this information, I apologize. But we are here for you. I am here for you. And I want to do everything that I can to stop this from happening. And if that means creating a revolution, uniting people who have a similar mind to myself, and directing the anger, the frustrations, the protests towards the people who are trying to usher in this revolution, well, then so be it. And this is what we have to do now. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk soon.